I'm going to be talking mostly about digital marketing, how to create a marketing plan, and when we speak about channels, I'll share a few hacks wherever relevant for those channels. To share a little bit about me, I'm I have a B2B marketing and startup consultancy called Envizon. Before that, I was a founding member of Hotologics. Currently, I work as a fractional CMO with three companies, that is Acid, Hotologics, and Access Rooms. I work as a consultant and advisor on product marketing, inside sales, branding, GTM strategy, and growth. For early stage startups who need to create a marketing engine, or growth startups who need to scale up their marketing and sales while establishing best practices for reporting and measuring of SaaS metrics. So that's a little bit about me. To begin with, the first thing that we have to start with when we do marketing is know what our market segment is, who exactly is it that we are selling to. And we have to work on this, we have to establish this with a laser sharp focus. Once we know what the market segment is, who is the person that we are selling to, identify the positioning and the messaging, we create a marketing plan, we execute it, and while doing that, do all of that with a very metric driven approach, which means we keep measuring and ensuring that every month on month there is an incremental increase on the parameters that we decide are important to us. So to talk about segments, most of the startups fall under one of these four segments. So either we are selling to enterprise or large companies in India and Asia, or we are selling to large enterprises globally, or we are selling to SMB, small and mid-sized businesses in India and Asia, or global. So these are some of the one of the four main segments that most of the startups fall into. And depending on which segment we are in, the sales strategy will differ. So for example, if we are talking about large enterprises, it's a very high touch sales, so low touch or medium touch will not work. On the other hand, if we are selling to very small businesses or small or mid-sized businesses, in that scenario, if we create a sales and a marketing strategy which is very high touch, and people cannot self serve or quickly look at the product, make a decision, activate quickly, then this may not work. So the best practice is that if you fall under a SMB and a very small business segment, then your strategy has to be of low touch or a medium touch. And similarly, if it's a very high touch, your small and medium business segment, it will not, the ROI will not be there. Even if you do, get customers, it's basically you can only be revenue positive, or you can scale if there is volume in the number of customers that you gain on a month on month basis. So there are multiple strategies that you can follow depending upon the segment that you choose. And here are some examples that I've picked up from a workshop that was conducted by Kissflow's founder. And like I mentioned, if we start from here, a very, very small business needs to have, you need to get volume customers. So it needs to be a viral loop. You get one customer, and you get multiple customers from there through referrals, etc., through customer content and stuff like that, and a lot of SEO traffic. If you go through a little larger segment, and where the ARPA, or the average revenue per acquisition, is about $100, then in that case, again, it has to be kind of a referral loop. So one customer should lead to multiple other customers. If you have that model, only then it is possible to grow or scale. We then come to these a scenario where your ARPA is somewhere between 1,000 to 10,000, and in this scenario is where we talk about, this is what I will mainly be talking about for startups who fall under this segment. And here, the strategies that we can follow are inbound marketing, inside sales, both inbound and outbound, both would work, right? And for very, very large enterprises, it's mostly wine and dine and a more startup enterprise sales process, which is on field. So the right approach. So before we start talking about, digital marketing channels and, how to select them, how to execute them, I just wanted to mention a little bit that from our experience today, when we start working on our positioning, messaging, etc., the thing to understand is that while working on a product differentiation, and if we could arrive at a product differentiation, it was a USP would be a very advantageous to the marketing person also. But now there is this little shift. Product differentiation is important, but the shift is coming towards customer experience, the entire customer experience across the buyer's journey, from where he starts getting aware of your product to when he starts making a buying decision, your the interaction that the person has with your sales team, etc. All of that is becomes very, very important. The entire experience has to be great. There has to be no friction in that entire process, in that entire journey. Also, again, what you sell is important, but how you sell it has become even more important. So these two things I wanted to mention. While creating any marketing process, we have to ensure that we stop having a funnel approach, which is, pipeline marketing goes to sales and then customers, but customer has to be at the center of the entire marketing process or the sales process that we design. So the first thing, like I mentioned, was now that we've understood what our segment is, and we are talking about small, mid-size, or mid-market segment. In that case, we the next thing we start thinking about what our positioning is, what is our messaging, and how do we brand ourselves. One thing to mention is that positioning is very different from a marketing slogan or a tagline. That is not a positioning statement. A positioning statement is more of an internal statement that you share with your internal teams, for them to understand who we are, right? And who is our target customer, what is their need, what is the product that we are selling, what is the category we are selling to, etc., right? So we just identify all of these parts and make that into a statement, and we keep that as the core foundation of all the further messaging that we will develop from here, right? And so while doing that, most of the companies stop here. So they look at what consumers want, and what do we, as a brand or a startup, what does our product do best, right? We match that, and most of the marketing falls in this region. However, the best way to do that, and this is one of the slides that I pick up from Beloved Brands. It's a company that does very good branding. And so if you are able to come to a winning zone where you don't just match up on what consumers want or what your brand does best, but also what your competitor do best, and fall in a winning zone where what your differentiator is not falling under the same area where your competitor is playing, is when you can actually do very well. It's very difficult to find that this area, but unless you find it, it's very difficult for you to win in the market, right? So either in the product, or in the process, in your customer service, in some aspect, you need to find this winning zone for yourself, right?
Just one question here. Sorry. Okay, okay.
Can
That
we
becomes a risky zone. Okay, fine. I just wanted to know why not in the center.
Yeah.
Fine. Sure.
So if we can have all the questions in the end, that'll be great, because I have to go through like 40
Sure.
slides.
Yeah, yeah,
So
sure.
great. So if you can note down all the questions that you have, and then we can come back to all of them later, right? So if you come in that risky zone, it is a risky zone. The point is that if you play in this area, the issue is that you need to spend a lot more marketing money, right? And we are talking about startups where you may have limited budgets, right? And you need to win with other things, create emotion, do very good advertising. Basically, it's a head on head battle in the market. So that's what I meant with coming and trying and finding something in the green zone for yourself. So when you've identified all of these things, the some of the important channels that you can use for branding and spreading out the message that you've created. So once you get a positioning statement, you've understood what your who your target market is, what is the core area of strength that you have, where your competitors are not that strong, not that they don't have that, but maybe not that strong, as strong as you are. You create multiple messages from that positioning statement, and then you use them across all of these digital assets, like your website logo, the SEO, the search engine optimization that you do, how people find you through those through those special keywords that align with your messaging, your social media assets, online advertising, your content marketing influencer, all of this will align to that same positioning statement, should talk about the essence of your positioning statement repeatedly and consistently. So you have to keep on repeating. Don't think that you've said it once, then you have to keep changing it. No, there has to be repetition, right? So that is important. There are other brand assets apart from the digital assets. I'm just mentioning it here. But when you create a brand, all of these assets come into play. Your stationery, how big companies do it, your sales and marketing collateral, flyers, posters, newsletters, your PowerPoint presentations, your templates, all your electronic communication, etc. So all of these things will should align with the how what you have decided as your positioning statement in terms of messaging, and of course some visual elements, etc. If you are going towards creating a proper brand identity for yourself. Once this is done and we have a co-positioning statement in front of us and we know exactly what we have to say, because digital marketing is all about communication, and all communication needs to center around, in one way or the other, around our core strengths and the positioning statement that we've identified. Now we come to digital marketing. There are multiple channels that are available to us to market. There is, of course, search engine optimization. Then there is paid marketing available. This will include your Google ads, Bing ads, etc. Your content marketing and distribution. Multiple directly listings are available where there are aggregators of technology, vendors, where you also there are also these are also public places where your customers can give reviews, etc., like Capterra, G2 Crowd, Software Suggest, etc. You have social media marketing, email marketing, guest blogging. So multiple channels are available to you for digital marketing. So which one do you pick if you are beginning, or how do you manage all of these channels, is what we're going to talk about next. There are other important marketing channels I just want to mention, even though this is a digital marketing masterclass, but we should not ignore the other marketing channels as well, like events, online or offline. Some representation, if you are getting to the mid market segment, is always good. Some partners, road shows with your small meetups with your customers or your partners, etc. All of these will also benefit and give an extra edge to your marketing. So talking about the digital marketing channels, when you have them, so you can create a list of the channels like I did, and newer channels keep coming. So what you have to do is you have to uh, so you can create an Excel, so create a list of channels, and on the second column you need to list whether these channels for you are high impact channels or high reach channels, right? So high impact would mean that if I start working on that particular channel today, I might start getting leads tomorrow or within a week. But there are high reach channels which may not have an immediate impact, like for example SEO. So if you are a new website doing SEO today, or you are starting social media marketing today with less than, let's say, 1,000 followers or even 5,000 followers for that matter, it's not going to have a lot of impact to your marketing. However, you need to have a balance of high impact and high reach channels in your marketing plan, because high impact channels will help you acquire customers today, but they will not have any momentum. So every month, that you'll have to spend more, you'll have to add more resources to get more customers from here. But some of the high reach channels, if you start working on them today, they are the channels that will give you scale later on in your growth, right? So for example, like I already mentioned, SEO would take time, But if you are doing paid marketing, for example, there might be immediate results. If you do good PR through a good agency, not just doing online PR through PR Newswire, etc., it may also give you immediate results if done, with a proper alignment, great story, etc. LinkedIn, for example, if you're doing LinkedIn in mails and contacting people through an outbound channel, that may also give you immediate results. Referrals can give you immediate. So all of these are high impact channels. But I believe that you should have select high impact channels, of course, because you need to grow revenue today. However, keep high reach channels also in your marketing strategy so that they start performing for you in a year's time while the high impact channels are giving you revenue today. So that's how I would like to, choose my channels. The other things about the digital marketing channel is to understand the nuances. So many a times what happens is I've seen startups giving up on a channel. So they don't do social media marketing because it's not working out, you're not getting leads from it, right? But the point is you need to understand, like I mentioned, you need to understand that a channel will take time to pick up speed, so you need to judge it accordingly. So again, that comes back to understanding that it's a high reach channel, not really a high impact today, but you need to work on it, right? So don't give up on a channel saying that it is not working for me, not understanding that it in any case will, it is a channel by virtue, its nature is to take time to give you leads, right? So you need to understand the nuances of each channel. Also, every channel needs a different frequency, which means that you know the amount of marketing that you do in a particular channel will differ from channel to channel, right? On LinkedIn, for example, two one or two posts per day would be sufficient. But on Twitter, for example, you need to post probably once every hour because the frequency of the channel is different. So if you do only one post per day on Twitter, it will not make any difference if you're just starting out, right? Similarly, content marketing. So if you are starting off with content marketing and you're writing two blogs a month, that is not going to have any impact on your marketing because it requires a very high frequency. So you need to post at least 1 to 2 blogs per week. That is the frequency that content marketing needs, right? So that's a little bit of what this slide talks about. That when you pick a channel, you need to understand how that channel will work, understand the frequency, like how much marketing, what volume of marketing is required for that channel to for it to start working for you, and also how long will it take for you to start giving results. So understand both of that. Once you have all of these channels, again, everything does not work on every channel, right? So when we do marketing, we have multiple hooks. We don't just say contact sales or request a demo. We do multiple things. We have multiple hooks. We can offer a free audit. We can offer just a free test drive to just look through a video or a demo. We could offer webinars, ebooks, templates, etc. So all of these hooks may not work on all of the channels, right? So you need to understand and plan it accordingly. So if you're doing, let's say, a ebook campaign, then you may pick up, LinkedIn as a channel, and obviously do some SEO optimization of the landing page to ensure people come and download it. Organically, of course, everything works. On outbound, for example, you will not never, you'll never do an outbound campaign to download a book, but it is more about getting a meeting. So all of these channels, some of these hooks may work on some of these channels, so you can pick and choose accordingly your campaigns. So the understanding of these channels is important, right? So don't blindly do everything on all of these channels, especially if you're using a paid budget, for example, on all of these channels. And then you also need to understand that channels that have potential for an X growth, right? So outbound, for example, if you have one person calling, you'll get X number of meetings. If you do 10 people, then obviously though that will multiply itself. Similarly, organic, the more visits you get, the more leads you will start getting, right? So referrals may not be that may not have that X factor. So all of those nuances need to be understood about the channel, and you can create a similar matrix also to identify which persona is in which channel. For example, some of your core buyers may not be on one channel, but the influencers might be. So if your CXO is the buyer, He may not be on all of these channels. He may, he may find you only on organic, or he may be the person who's available on LinkedIn, but the influencer or junior people within the team may be available on other channels. So you can create a similar matrix for yourself to understand over a period of time, after experiencing talking to people who sign up on your multiple channels, to understand which kind of persona comes on which channel mainly, right? The other thing about channels is, for marketing to work, you need to have a good foundational, you need to build your reach. What it means is, if you're doing digital marketing, it's all about communication. So I'll be writing content, I'll be doing social media promotions, I'll be doing ad campaigns, right? I'll be sending out emailers. However, all of that will only have an impact if you have a good enough reach. And reach means, how many social media followers do you have, right? So today, if I post something on my social media channels, but I have barely have 2,000 followers or even 500 followers, then it's not going to have any reach. It's not going to get many impressions. Similarly, if you don't have blog subscribers and email database, email marketing will not scale. Paid reach, you need to keep measuring if the audience selection, etc., is it increasing in the number of impressions, if you want to scale. And also your keyword universe. So what kind of keywords have you chosen, and which keywords are you doing SEO on, will also determine how many people will be coming to your website in the future, right? So the building your reach is important. And if you're starting off, if you're an early stage startup just starting off your marketing, then apart from just monitoring your leads, you need to keep a very close eye on your reach numbers and see on a week on week basis whether this is increasing or not, right? In the early stages, we should target and see at least a 20% growth week on week, or sorry, month on month, on each in your reach, overall reach, right? So once you worked on that and your keyword universe, I'll just quickly go through it. Basically, when you're selecting your keywords, of course you should look at very problem keywords and very high value keywords, where people are about to make a decision, or a buying keywords like people call it, right? Looking for a CRM, or looking for a solution for for HR, etc. I mean, these are these may be keywords that point to a person who is very close to a buying decision. However, they may not be a very high volume keyword. So you need to keep a balance of some solution keywords where people have where there are some there is high search volume, and so problem keywords where it's a more of a early decision process, where people are just finding out about the solution, inquiring, information, learning, those kind of keywords, plus some highly sought after keywords as well. So keep a balance of both, because again, coming back to this, if you don't select the right keywords and your keyword universe, for example, each of these keywords, you have to see what is the entire search volume, how many people are searching for that keywords in your area, in your target geography. So, for example, let's say we have a keyword, say B2B marketing, right? So I'm doing B2B marketing, and let's say B2B marketing has a very, very high search volume, right? But there'll also be a lot of competitors bidding on the same keyword. So if I do SEO on it, I'll be probably getting only 0.01% of that market share of the entire keyword universe, right? So if you choose a keyword that only has 2,000, for example, search volume, then you can just guess what 1% of that would be, right? If you are able to get that market share. So you need to ensure that your selection of keywords is right, so that your reach in terms of SEO or people coming to your website will increase on a gradual, on a quarter on quarter basis. Coming to content marketing, it's one of the most important aspects of digital marketing. It helps you build your brand. Again, coming back to your positioning and messaging, ensuring, even if you're writing about multiple things, but keep coming back to, or keep inserting messaging around your positioning statement. It Content marketing also builds your reach, because the more you share, the better content you share, the more engaging content you share, your audience builds on social media. You get more followers, you get more subscribers to your blogs. It also helps you generate leads and get customers. So apart from some of the tools that can help you decide on what content to write, like BuzzSumo, etc., uh, some of the questions that you can ask from within your process, and you should get some answers to, and this will give you some feedback as to whether your internal teams are being a source of information back to your marketing team or not, right? So some questions that you can ask, some to your customers, or when you have conversations with your prospects, etc. Some people also have some flash surveys on their websites with some incentive, etc. But you can ask, so the top of the funnel kind of content is more for a broad audience, for getting more followers, leads, etc., obviously customers as well. So here we talk about general topic of interest. What would if you had to attend, let's say, an a master class by an expert, which topic would interest you, things like that. So you can do those kind of questions for people, and have some broader topics there. For internal teams, for sales and customer success team, you should ask them, what in your conversation with the customers, what kind of questions come up, which may not be product related, which may be more broader in terms of information, etc. Then for middle of the funnel content, we talk to customers about what are the biggest challenges that they have, what are the pain points that they are facing in their business right now, in their role in increasing their revenue, etc. And for sales and customer success, we talk to them and ask them, sorry, that's not top non-product related, but top product related questions now that they come across from the customer. So we try and address those in the middle of the funnel content, where we talk about some of the more about our product, our benefits, our solutions, etc., and stuff like that. The bottom of the funnel content, we take this feedback from both the customers and also from lost leads. Very important, because we need to get from customers what has convinced them, and also from customers who've not chosen us, what made them not choose our product or choose another competitor opposed to us. So getting that information and creating content around it, right? So and from sales and customer success people, objections, right? So every sales call should document what were the objections that were raised within that call, what were the main questions, what were the issues. And so we create of the funnel content around this, so that we preempt those answers or preempt those inhibitions that customers may have while making a decision to buy our product, right? Also, it will give us some information on what kind of customers are not qualified. So some of the reasons for lost leads are things that we can address, and some of these we cannot, right? So it will come back to our process or sales and marketing process to identify what kind of customers are not meant for us, are not qualified for our product, right? So and this also comes back to ensuring that we can validate whether the positioning or the messaging that we came up with is right or not, right? So the bottom of the funnel content, the questions that we ask for coming to the topics for the content that we write, when we ask these questions, it will validate again our positioning statement, because positioning statement is not something that you should change very frequently. It should stay with you at least for a year or two, right? Then coming to content distribution, now you've written content, you need to market that content also. It's not about just posting on your social and you're done with it. So you need to have on that content, you need to ensure that you have an option for people to subscribe to the newsletter or the blog. Then you need to ensure that it is optimized so that it is visible, or you can find it or discoverable on organically. Then you can do paid social boosts to targeted segments, right? So if you're talking about some aspect of your product or your solution which is relevant for a sub segment within your target segment, you can do targeted boosts, right? For only for CXOs, let's say CIOs, or maybe for ID managers, or for marketeers, or only for social media marketeers, etc., right? So you can do these targeted boosts on your content. You can do so, over a period of time, you should start building relationship with influencers. Mostly the founders have to help with that initially if you don't have a senior marketer in the team. So over a period of time, you will have some influencers, have some engagement with them, help, call them, take their quotes, etc. And you can also ask them to kind of boost your post once in a while. If you have partners, then you can do co-marketing with them. Some of your good content, you can, market it across your partner lists. Then social, obviously. Then there are third party websites, good ones, which you should find, which are, so every vertical mostly will have a few very good sites, common sites where most of your competitors will also be advertising. So you can also have a few posts there. Then of course your mailers. And so basically this is, and your content should be posted across not just your company pages. You should write some of the content also for your leaders. So the founders or the CEOs or the top leadership should also be doing some content should get posted on their LinkedIn profiles on an ongoing basis. So while you're creating a content plan, it has to be for the company and for the leadership as well, both. To decide on the what topics to write, there are multiple things available. You can write, some of the content that really works well, where you'll get a lot of backlinks, is if you share statistics and if you do surveys and have some report based on that, or tutorials. If you write these three type of content, you'll get maximum backlinks or people linking back to your content, etc. Right? And there are multiple tools out there which will tell you how to write a headline or the science behind the headline that gives you the maximum click. So read through all of that. There are some power phrases, optimum length, headline length, etc. A lot of research, so you can use all of that to give more boost to your content. Once you've done all of that, you need to measure whether your content marketing is working or not. There are two metrics that you should take a look at. Don't just look at engagement metrics or only growth metrics. Both should show some improvement on a month on month basis. So engagement metrics, obviously, like how much time you spent, how many pages you visited after visiting, reading the blog that you clicked on, how many shares, bounce rates, and search rankings for that particular page, etc. And growth metrics is, you should be able to see that through the content that you've written, how many people, the entry to your website through content, how many leads were we able to get through that, and the customer conversion and was the cost per lead, etc. If you have spent some dollars on boosting the content and stuff like that. So I'll skip through this slide quickly to mention this just talks about an experiment that was done by HubSpot and Moz, and they found out that not just writing very good content, but even volume content is important. So just thinking that I'll write very good content and only two pieces of content a month will a week will not work, right? So you need to have both volume and quality of content to ensure that you get success in content marketing. That's what this talk about. This is a slide hack. If you want, you can take a screenshot. But if you're doing ebook marketing, you can do multiple such things. With one ebook, you can, take the first chapter, put it on SlideShare. You may not see impact day one, but if you keep doing it over a period of time, you'll build a very good resource on all of these channels, and they'll eventually start showing results. You can also record a part of your ebook and launch it as an audiobook. You can create infographics on ebooks, tips, tricks, and you can have Twitter cards. You can host a Twitter chat on the topic, and then when people are involved, you can also share the link to your ebook there. You can turn some of the chapters and some of the content there into a blog post, and that link back, have a banner within that blog for downloading the ebook. If you have managed to create a community of influencers for yourself, you can ask them to share it. And multiple other such things that you can do only from one ebook. Multiple content can be created from it, and you can activate multiple channels to get more downloads for that. So when you're doing social media marketing, so content marketing and social media, hand in hand. Again, very important to first, you know, as an example, this is only 3 weeks, but you can keep an entire monthly calendar with you. So we keep uh, a broad plan in front of us for the social media person, that, what are we going to do in this entire month? Like, for example, on Monday, we will do more branding content. So some content from the leaders of the company, or some content that brands the company. So it's not a blog, etc., but just a poster that talks about what the product is, what is a USP, and stuff like that. Or from the positioning statement, if we've come up with you know from the main positioning statement, like I mentioned, we come up with multiple statements that again focus back to the main statement. We can create banners around all of those messages, right? And keep reinforcing them every month, right? Then Tuesday could be for a new blog. Tuesdays and Thursdays and Wednesdays, we can do, ebook marketing, infographic, things like that. So basically, or a social media wrap, or on Fridays, you can do something interesting about an industry tidbit and all. So overall, it's a good idea to have kind of it's not laying down exactly what you're saying, but overall broad plan. What type of topics will you talk about on your social media channels to keep it busy, interesting, engaging with a variety of content? From here, your social media people can take and then break it up. So I've given you two examples. Um, One is for LinkedIn on the left, and the right is on Twitter. So you'll see the frequency is different. On LinkedIn we have 3 posts per day. However, on LinkedIn we have on Twitter, sorry, we have decided for 1 post per hour, right? And we are picking up stuff from the main plan that we had created for the month, right? So that's a little bit about social media marketing and digital marketing hacks. Some of the other things that we should do in marketing, which is not covered in your core digital marketing channels, is remarketing. So once you've done all of the activities that I mentioned, or other great ideas that you have, gotten people onto the website once, what is important is for us to make the best out of it. So our main purpose is, if the person comes to the website, the top priority is he signs up for a demo. If that does not happen, then the second thing that we want is he downloads an ebook or any other content or becomes a subscriber so that we get an email ID, right? The third, if both of those things don't happen, then we do remarketing, right? So here what an important thing to do is that people, let's say he's come to a particular page, and we'll say the same thing again and again, but remarketing should be done in a very slightly different pitch. So if you've said something on the website that person has seen is not convinced, when you do remarketing, do a slightly different pitch and try use videos instead of only banners, right? So that works. Push notifications are also a very good channel. So when you do emails, for example, you're following up somebody, if somebody signed up, and then you're following up with them again and again. Push notifications become another channel for you. If somebody's come, and many of when there is a pop-up that comes up which says, would you allow us to give some notifications, many people do click yes, and then you can follow up with them. This is making use of your marketing efforts that you've already done to get people onto the website and get more conversions from those visits, right? Translate content. So if you're working for multiple geographies, right, this works. So you can have some of the content, let's say you're doing Southeast Asia, you can do translate some of the content into Thai, into Indonesia languages, and whatever local languages, or Arabic if you're doing Middle East, for example, that also works, right? So if you can get some translators that are available at a very low cost, low cost services, you can try that out. For some, it does work. So for us in Hotologics, and we did try it. We had multiple content pieces that we had done in Spanish, in Portuguese, and it did help us to get more visits and leads from these regions and the Spanish speaking and Portuguese speaking regions, right? Then YouTube SEO works very well. So it's a channel, it's an unexplored channel, I would say. Uh, Not that people are not doing it, but it's still picking up. It's not still as crowded as Facebook. So YouTube SEO works a little differently. Here, the hack is that in SEO, what works, right? We create a page, and over a period of time, you can build a domain authority for it. But in YouTube SEO, is slightly different. YouTube say works with the way that if you post a YouTube video, for example, if it works well in the first 24 hours, it will do well forever, right? So when you post a YouTube video, very important, on the same day, plan everything, your entire YouTube video launch, do mailers, post it, promote it on social media, boost it, etc. The more views you get, the better SEO it will happen for YouTube, for example. Then live chat on your website, pop-ups on your website, not interrupting people, but on exit, for example, or if the mouse cursor moves away from the screen. In those scenarios, pop-ups can increase your conversion. When people request a demo, what happens is we get a lead and then salespeople follow up for a meeting, etc. But instead, if you have a call scheduling, it has proven in many cases to increase the chances of getting a meeting. And a free tool hook. So if you can, provide a free tool, free measurements, calculators, so free audits, etc., and stuff like that on your website, those are also very good hooks to get people to give you your email ID, right? So once we've done all of these activities, we also need to measure how we are doing. Some of the top level measures that I think all of you must already be knowing about is, what is the cost per acquisition for your lead? What is the cost of acquisition of a customer? What is the lifetime value of the customer? Which is, if you get one customer, how much revenue do you get from him in a lifetime? Does he stay, overall 2 years if he's your customer, or if it's a very, like for example, it's a social media scheduling product that you're selling, then that customer could stay with you maybe for even 5 years, right? So depending on what tool that you're selling, what is the lifetime value of the customer and payback period. So if you've spent $200 in acquiring a customer, in how much time will you get that money back? In 3 months, in 4 months, right? So ideally, if you have, very small ARPA, then you should recover the cost of acquisition of customer within 2 3 months. If you are getting a higher ARPA, more than 500 or 1000, then maybe 4 or 5 months is also okay. The other things that you measure in marketing are obviously the cost per impression, the cost per click, the sign-ups that you're getting, the cost for each of those leads, and the customer, I already mentioned. Then the other things that you can also take a look at is your conversion ratios across all the funnels, right? How many visits to your website, how many of those convert into leads, direct leads, which is actually requesting for a demo, or indirect leads, which are just downloading stuff or subscribing to your blogs. The organic traffic growth month on month, and keep building on that. What is your conversion through paid versus organic, and all of that, right? So multiple such metrics we need to keep an eye on a month basis to ensure that there is regular growth. So all of those numbers obviously should not fall, but it should not also be plateaued, because as a startup we need to have continuous growth. So small tweaks, small marginal improvements would lead to a big change in your numbers on a month basis. Now, very important, even though this is a digital marketing masterclass, sales goes hand in hand. So if you get inbound leads, you need to have a very well structured inside sales team. Otherwise, your leads will fall through the funnel, fall through the cracks, and we will not see revenue, right? So very important is the timing. So as soon as you get a lead, please don't delay. An hour is bad, a day is really bad. So you need to pick up the phone immediately, you need to call within the first 15 minutes, you need to persistently call and follow up on that lead. Doesn't mean that I keep calling on the same day, but I mean spacing it out across 1 or 2 months. But an inbound lead needs to be followed up at least 16 touch points, which would include an email, maybe a touch point on LinkedIn, a call, etc., and stuff like that. But 16 touch points spread across 1.5 months before you give up on a lead. In many companies, they do one mail, two mail, three mail, and they give up. So that is not right. Then creating a well-defined process for people to follow, so that every salesperson is not doing what he or she wants to do individually. And right, so here little bit some statistics: the chances of getting a lead is 100 times higher if you call after 30 minutes, and qualifying a lead is 21 times higher. So uh, it's very important. So if you call after 30 minutes, the chances will fall. But if you call within 30 minutes, then the chances are 100 times higher. So make sure that there is an immediate response to a lead, to an inbound lead. Here is one of the process that you can follow. I've just given a screenshot of what we used to follow in one of the companies I have worked in. At day one, we call within 5 minutes. If there is no engagement, then we call again. So twice we try and reach out on day one with a call, and then we send out an email, right, or a voicemail. So things like that. So you can create a process for your sales team to follow to ensure there are about 16 touch points, and spread across 1.5 months till you get either a yes or a no from your lead. So just finally, I just want to briefly talk about outreach programs. Very important. If you're doing mid-market, some outbound process should be done in every company. find your target companies, find your target contacts, you enrich your CRM with more information about as much information that you can get about that contact. Then create a multi-channel, multi-week campaign, which could look something like that. So don't go and reach out to the person directly, calling that person for a demo day one. We try and warm them up to it. So we do week one targeted campaign. So if you already have a list, we can do LinkedIn campaigns where we are boosting our post only to those audiences, right? So they will start seeing some of our ads. Then we can week three we can do, once we've done that for 2-3 weeks, we can start doing nurture emails, right? So to that list we can send some marketing informational mailers. The point being that before you start calling them after a month, they would have seen the name of your company here and there on social media, on email, etc. So when you call them, that company is not unknown, right? So that's a kind of outreach campaign that you can probably design if you're doing outbound. Some of the things that I want to mention when you're doing marketing is use competition, right? So don't work on an island. Make sure that every month there is one intern who is doing some competition research, giving you a report on what your competition is doing, etc. Bid on competition keywords. Use alternate and comparison pages if you're doing SMB. It is everybody is doing alternate and comparison pages. If your domain allows, then you should do that. Quarterly, every quarter you should plan at least some campaigns. You should have multiple lead generation hooks. Don't do the same thing again and again. Obviously request a demo is there, but try multiple hooks. Like I said, some reports, free reports, or some tools, etc. Ebooks, webinars, multiple hooks. Try different kinds of hooks and see what works. Run a minimum of 2 experiments per quarter. This is for people who are early stage, right? Till we've identified what works and what does not work. Uh, if you keep doing the same thing again and again for a year, we will not learn anything new. So till we hit upon hooks that work for us, channels that work, if you are doing ad campaigns, what kind of creatives are working, on which audience is it working, all of those. So basically 2 new experiments per quarter for sure. Um, should be done. Increase the volume of content that you're creating and the social activity that you're doing to see a quick boost on in your visits, leads, etc. and stuff like that. And make sure that you're building your email database on a week on week basis. Your database has to increase, right? And if you're doing enterprise sales, and hire a salesperson with already a ready pipeline for your first 6 months, right? So if you are targeting, let's say, a certain contact list, your salesperson should already know, like, few people within that list, which which will help him make a pipeline for the first 6 months. So these are some of the hacks. And the challenges that you will face obviously are that Google ads are high CAC, so they are expensive. FB ads, don't give up. Try them at least for 6 months minimum, because it takes time for us to find out which audience will work for us and which creative works for us. So you create one banner and keep doing that again and again. No. So you'll sometimes have to experiment on 2 to 3 banners every week, see which one is working on which audience and stuff like that. Lots of work is needed for paid campaigns to work. So you need to keep some budget aside, because if they do work, then it's a very good channel. It's a very high impact channel for you to get leads, right? Um, yeah, so that's a little bit about it. North America, obviously, if you're targeting, then it's very high CAC, all the experiments. And last thing before we end is, remember, for your positioning and messaging statement, there has to be repetition. So all the content, though different pieces of content we are writing, some in some way, some flavor of the messaging and the positioning statement needs to be added to your content, and consistently it needs to be repeated, so that people start associating the positioning that you want uh, for your product in their mind. So that's it. Now you guys can ask your questions.
Hi,
Yes, Ash.
Maansi.
Yeah, hi.
Just wanted to check with you. So for the sales process, is there any tutorials or any resources that you can suggest that we can follow?
There's nothing that comes to me in the top of my mind. We basically have learned it across after experience, but there is, um, I don't recollect from, immediately, but maybe I can share something with you. Just ping me on LinkedIn, and
Yes.
then I'll share a few resources with you.
Yes. So with your experience, like usually, is there a standard process that you do, or does it like extremely get customized depending on clients?
No, it's actually a very standard process. What differs between companies is the pitch that you make, right? And who is the target segment and what are the hooks the conversation hooks. So how would you get them interested in listening to the rest of your pitch in the first few seconds? Those things change, but the process more or less is the same, right? So if you're talking about outbound process, then you need to have seasoned callers who are, who have experience in calling to that market segment, who understand some of the nuances of that industry and that ecosystem so that they can have conversation regarding it, right? And they're not just reading out a script. This is because in the initial phase you need to still discover. After you've reached upon a stage where your out sales is already working and you're getting x number of meetings per day, and you've gotten the math right, which means if you do x number of calls you will definitely get a conversation with maybe 5% of those people, and from those 1% will convert into meetings. When that math is correct, then is the time when you can have like a ready script, and you can just scale upon, add people and just train them on that script, and they just read that out, and that works. But initially if you're building a process, you need to have people who have experience, because they'll have to experiment, they need to have multiple conversations, record them, you hear them, and then figure out which works best, right? But overall the sales process is very standard. uh, I would recommend, instead of I will always share the resources with you, but it's good to hire a good salesperson who's done this before, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel yourself.
That's great. Thank you. So I just have two follow-up questions on that. So you said great salespeople. So when you're hiring, is there how do you like identify good salespeople? Is there any tips or tricks you can share?
Yeah, obviously the standard questions, you talk to them, ask them what were their targets, how much has they achieved, what was the product that they were selling, what made people talk to them, how many calls did they make, things like that. And then I think a great person can have great conversations if that person is able to hold your interest, talk about multiple things. uh, for the initial hire of the salesperson, I look at those things: should be smart, intelligent, to have multiple kinds of conversations, hold your interest, and sound pleasant on phone. So yeah.
Nice. Just one last question. So if let's say you're having a particular brand, and then you're focusing on one particular frame, let's say you have a particular corporate reputation, but then you have certain clients who are trying to pull you away from what you're doing. So maybe to a certain extent they become a bit what do you say, irritating. They keep reaching out and then asking different things. What do you do at those kind of times? Like, do you give in, or do you like put a hard stop and say that you're not going to provide what they're asking?
So you're talking about a stage where startup is still doing a product market fit, right? That is when you have these scenarios. Or are you asking for a scenario where you are doing an enterprise selling and you have a solution, but your customers keep pulling you for customizations? Which is the question more suited to?
I think a mix of both, where the customer knows certain experiences and expertise that we have, and they want to take it in bits and pieces. They're willing to pay for it, but they are kind of it's going beyond what we can do as a official commercial service.
So unfortunately with enterprise, and if you're doing enterprise India, it is a not just enterprise India actually. If you're doing enterprise, then this is a part and parcel of enterprise, right? Enterprise people don't just buy a product. So you have to prepare for a solutions team and a team that will be working on customizations. Obviously, those customizations that are limited to that don't pull you or too much off your product roadmap that you already have in mind, right? So but if you're doing enterprise, then some bit of customizations will always happen. There is no way out of it. That is how enterprise works.
Thank you so much, Maansi.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Okay.
Maansi.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Yeah,
Because
I
we'll
have
wrap up in the
question.
next 3 minutes. We'll be wrapping. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Maansi. First of all, from a layman's perspective, this webinar is an eye-opener. I'll tell you what, because mailers, push notifications, these are topics that a layman, a person knows what is going on because we are in the era of internet. But the fact is, things going into this such detail is amazing. And I just want to commend you guys on that. And with that, I have one question. In content distribution slide, you talked about influencers and partner co-marketing, right? So in the part where a partner co-marketing, or for example, if a particular organization is choosy enough to not have influencers on board, and partner co-marketing is something they might have problem with. So is there any parallel solution to that for outsourcing partners or something?
Actually, I didn't really get your question. I mean, you mean you have partners, but they may not be willing to do co-marketing with you, which means they may not be willing to share the EDMs or your mailers across their mailing list. Is that the problem that you're facing?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it comes down to a more core question on what kind of partners do you have? Partners are, they have to have synergy, right? You need to choose the right partners. But if not, the point is to spread your content across, as many, it need increase the reach of your content as much as possible. This is one of the best ways to do it. I talked about ways where you can do it in a more organic manner, where you don't have to spend money. Otherwise, there are multiple associations, forums, and sites where they also offer you, an option to send a newsletter or content to their lists. But it's a paid, it's a paid thing. So mostly, and then there are also, I've not spoken about Outbrain, etc. There are some, content distribution sites like that as well. Content syndication, you can do that also. But mostly, if you have partners, partners are always willing to share content if you are also doing some bit for them, right? So if you have a partner, if you have partners, then you have alliance managers, or you must be doing that function on your own. But the point is, it's a give and take, right? So you need to have a discussion with them, do a little bit of what they need, and they will reciprocate, right? So a partner relationship building, if done well, there should be no problem in co-marketing activities, because it benefits them also. They don't lose out on it, because if you get business, they would also, because they are your partners.
Okay, so basically be a good partner and find a right partner. Long story short.
Yes. You partner selection, partner qualification, partner engagement, building your partner relationship, all of that is important. Only then you can use that channel well.
Okay, thank you, Maansi.
Okay.
Thanks, Maansi. I think this was a great session, as always. A lot of good feedback. So thank you for taking time, and thank you for supporting the foundation time and time again. So take care, and we can close the session.
Great. Thanks, Anjali. If anybody has any more questions, you can ping me on LinkedIn and I will try and respond back. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.